What's the worst thing you've ever been accused of while being completely innocent? Bank robbery. I was early for my first day as a gas jockey in a new city. I was across the street from the gas station, digging through my backpack when suddenly somebody told me to show them my hands. I was totally confused to look up and see two RCMP officers, hands on their sidearms. They didn't draw or anything. Turns out they had been a bank robbery around the corner a few minutes before and my gas jockey uniform and backpack matched the description. They looked inside my bag, containing my brown bag lunch and a paper bag, and then they were gone in a flash. Apparently, the guy didn't get caught until after another bank robbery in the same area. Whoa, that could have escalated real badly. Good thing these two officers were reasonable. My first week of high school, I got called into the office because rumors were flying around that I was planning to blow up the school and had already rigged it with explosives. This was obviously news to me. Then about a year later, I had my wisdom teeth removed and missed a week of school. When I finally came back, my friends had to explain the freaked out looks I kept getting from classmates. Apparently a boy who regularly picked at me had vanished from school about the same time I did, and the rumor going around was that I had killed him, eaten him, and then been arrested. Everybody was surprised to see me because they'd spent the past week telling each other about how I was in jail and he was in my stomach. Folks sure make up weird rumors. The boy was fine. For your information, he'd just been suspended. Hello fellow person that had I'm gonna blow up the school rumors about you going around. Had one person write a note and leave it on the desk in a science room for the teacher to find. This was right after Columbine, so it was so much fun. I even got a death threat or two. Was shot point blank with a BB gun. Oh man, high school was so much fun. Accused of breaking a girl's arm on a bounce house at a local fair when I was like 8 years old. Had been on there only a few seconds. Was just doing my thing and I heard screaming. We all stopped. The girl had an obviously broken arm and pointed at me and said, "He did it," with a non-broken arm. Of course. Dude in charge kicked me off. No refund. I found my family and explained it to them and my uncle said he was recording me on his camcorder when it happened. 1982. The camcorder was the size of a briefcase and ran on VHS tapes, but we had no way to play it back while there. Went home, plugged the thing into the VCR and played it back. Absolute 100% that it wasn't me. But then I got a life lesson in how being right doesn't mean you win. My dad pointed out we'd have to walk 15 minutes back to the bounce house and argue with them, with no way of showing them the video unless they sent someone to our house to watch it. All to get the 10p that I paid for 5 minutes on the bounce house. It would have been, at best, a Pyrrhic victory. Most likely they'd tell us to pee off. Anabolic steroids. I was a high jumper on my college's track and field team, and we would have to do urine tests every so often. Well, one of mine came back from the lab positive for anabolic steroids, which give women who take them strong manly-like features. I was 5 feet 8 inches and 125 pounds. Luckily the lab broke the tests into 2 samples and eventually tested the second sample, showing it was clean. Apparently the lab had a contaminated batch of test tubes, and the company had to fly reps into my college to apologize to me and a baseball player this both happened to. It was a scary couple weeks. Well, similar situation here. In my senior year of HS, I started working out consistently for the first time. 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. I managed to put on a lot of muscle rather quickly, which of course made the entire school think I was taking steroids. Even the teachers began asking me about it. I helped a friend of my mother move when I had just turned 18 for no pay, and this lady accused me of stealing one of her guns. I booked it straight to the police department to explain the situation. When she tried to report me, they told her she was crazy. They already spoke to me, and that criminals that steal guns don't go directly to the police. Our neighbor had severe dementia. My husband is very tall. His head is over the top of the fence no matter what. She filed a report that he was peeping on her. Her caretakers came to his defense, and when the cops saw him standing by the fence, they realized, but it could have gone badly. Husband steered clear of that half of the yard until she moved into assisted living. Had just moved to a new school in 5th grade. Was never great at making new friends, so I thought I'd sugar them up by bringing sugar mixed with Kool-Aid. something that was popular at my old school. Who doesn't love a bunch of 10-year-olds licking their fingers and dipping them in a baggie of sugar? Apparently, an older kid had given several first graders H during this time and it got pegged on me. I was removed from class. Police came. I cried like a bee because I didn't understand why they thought my grape Kool-Aid was H. I kept telling them to taste it. The principal finally did and realized I was telling the truth. Awesome first week of school. Drugs. Shockingly enough, my parents' divorce made me act out at 9 years old, and I kept distracting other kids in class. My mom was convinced it was because I was doing drugs and yanked hair out of my head and made me get blood tested. They found nothing, because I was 9 years old. I was accused of destroying a window at school by dropping a rock from a higher floor. Interrogated by the principal. Parents were called. Friends had to fund the repairs. Bullied on the bus. It freaking sucked. Found out who it was 2 years later, but by then nobody cared. In 3rd grade I walked to a convenience store with $2 and spent 20 minutes trying to decide what candy to get, picking things up and putting them back. The old lady clerk accused me of stealing and said to never come back. That was a bit problematic given it was the only gas station in my small town, and I've moved back and been living here for the last 15 years. I got kicked out of a sit-down restaurant during my company Christmas party for doing drugs in the bathroom. When the manager told me to leave and that they don't allow that behavior here, my boss and 20 plus other employees vouched for me that I had not left the table for 2+ hours. The entire duration of the party. The manager called my boss an idiot and made me leave. No one in my company has been back since. My father was accused of murdering the neighbor's dog and disposing it at a remote beach. When I was a kid we had a rocky relationship with one of the neighbors because they had a yappy dog that they took very poor care of. It drove the whole street mad, but for some reason it never got taken away by animal control. A few years ago my parents moved to another part of town. Afterwards, Dad worked on the old house to get it ready to sell. One day he was on the driveway when the neighbors left in their car. They made eye contact. Then, when the neighbors returned, their dog was inexplicably missing. They instantly accused Dad of sneaking over and butchering the dog because he had enough of it. He tried to explain that an animal control van had briefly come through the street shortly after they left, but they weren't having a bar of it. They were so convinced he had done something they started a massive social media campaign to pressure him into admitting it, including invading all the local community groups and outing him. They even went so far as to drive an hour out of town to the beach we often go to in the weekends to put up posters. It was wild, stressful and stupid. It only stopped after we picked up a lawyer and sent a cease and desist letter threatening to take them to court for public defamation. The dog was never found and apparently they have 2 new ones now. This was also the same family that found someone's lost cat and decided to keep it. Should have taken them to court honestly. Would have served him right. Drugs. When I was in high school I had a very monotonous voice that my parents thought was fake, and anytime we were out they would ask someone to tell me what I sound like because they thought that if I was embarrassed enough I would talk normally. Instead it made me talk less and me shut out some of my friends in my life. When they realized I wasn't talking they jumped to conclusions and accused me of doing drugs. What really made them think I was doing drugs was when I lost $20 at my school's picnic. They were constantly counting my money to see if they can prove I was doing drugs and realized that I was missing $40 and told me to tell them what happened to it. I explained to them that I had a picnic at school and brought $40 with me but lost half of it. They said my story didn't add up, so they started to rummage through my backpack and room anytime I wasn't at home and would ask for the names of my friends and anyone that I was talking to so that they could run background checks on them. This is tame compared to others in this thread, but it's one that has stuck with me for ages. When I was really little, around 6, my aunt was babysitting me. My sweet dog was shedding fur. My aunt accused me of cutting her fur. She had me across her knee saying she wouldn't spank me if I admitted it. I was sobbing uncontrollably because I loved my dog. We were the same age and she was like a second mom and would never do that to her. My mom came home not long after and I do remember her being livid. Despite my issues with my mom, she never once laid a hand on me. My mom couldn't believe that her sister never comprehended that animal sheds fur in clumps. We lived in a townhome condo complex. My mom was fighting with the board over misused funds. When she was at work there was a knock at our door. One of the neighbors had an emergency and asked if I could come and watch her kids while she went to the hospital. Sure. I was 16 and had been babysitting for 4 years. I spent a few hours looking after 2 cute kids 3 and 5. I got home before my mom. We started dinner and there was a knock at the door. It was a pair of police. The mother had gone to the police station and accused me of abusing her 3-year-old. She said that I hit her and locked her in the dryer for several hours. My mom asked the cop if he was insane. She pointed out that I was the kid who picked caterpillars off the walk and put them on the grass so people didn't step on them. She asked the cops to point out the complainant. When he pointed, my mom asked me if I was crazy because that's the woman who stole funds from the condo board. Why would I go there? I said I didn't know that and that she said she had to go to the hospital immediately because her dad had had a heart attack. The cops said they would be back. They came back an hour later and said I would not need to come with them after all. Turns out dad was alive and well. I wasn't so well after having a full-blown panic attack for an hour. What a bee. I don't understand people like that. I mean, just why? I was 14 and had just started to learn how to use a digital camera. The only one I had at the time was my mom's. Sometime after my birthday, the SD card that was my mom's went missing. My dad immediately went to blame me for it and my mom was hoping I didn't do it. After over an hour of interrogating me, we still couldn't find it. Come to find out, my mom had put it in her normal place of valuables she keeps it in. I didn't even get a freaking apology. Well, not accused, more like suspected. I was hanging with my circle of friends. The evening news came on. Story about some creepo reported sneaking into elementary schools and hanging out in the bathrooms. Nothing happened at this point, just some scared kids, and he wasn't caught. But due to multiple eyewitnesses, they were able to display a fail-free confident police sketch. It was 100% me. In the deafening silence that followed, all my friends turned slowly to look at me. One said, "No kidding, I'm calling the cops." Probably kicking my young son. I was carrying something like hot tea or soup and he went to grab me. So I put my knee out to stop him getting close to me and scalding himself. But for some reason, everyone else in the room thought I kicked him or kneed him. Very strange situation. When I was 11, I was accused by a babysitter that I was molesting my sister when I was really playing my Nintendo DS with her. It was completely unbelievable because she said that she made it all up because she didn't want to change diapers. She got fired by my mom and the last I saw her she was living in her car. She sounds mentally ill. Things probably could have turned out a lot worse with her as a babysitter, not that what happened wasn't crappy enough. In 4th grade, someone kept stealing mouse balls from the computer lab. I remember our teacher warning us about it. One day my teacher pulled me aside and told me that someone had accused me of being the mouse ball thief. It was a guy I was friendly with but not friends with. Kind of an outcast. I assured him this was totally false and I think he believed me. I was a mostly good kid. The next day at school I look inside my pencil box and what do I find but a mouse ball sitting inside. I'm freaking out. I go up to the teacher, probably talking a million miles an hour about how I didn't steal the mouse ball, didn't know why it was in my pencil box, etc. He looks at me doubtfully and says he'll have to get with the principal and figure out what to do with me. The whole evening I'm still freaking out. My mom has the idea of looking my accuser up in the phone book. I looked that jerk up and confronted him and his father about what was happening. He denied doing anything on the phone. The next day the kid admitted to the teacher first thing. He had planted the ball as a practical joke. Saw the guy years later and he was trying to be friendly. I found myself still pee off about this incident. Stealing mouse balls is an impressively nefarious yet low-key crime. I was 9 and a Girl Scout. I was attending a Girl Scout camp and the leader accused me of throwing trash around the campsite. She made me sit in a chair in the corner of a building. I remember crying over the whole situation. For the record, I didn't throw trash around the campsite. The leader was a mean woman. When I was in elementary school, my friend tickled me while I was hanging from the monkey bars. She was very tall for her age and could touch the bars with her feet on the ground. I was super short, so the fall I took when I lost my grip was pretty long and I had a lot of time to flail and desperately try to grab something to save myself. Unfortunately, my tiny hand found the waistband to her leggings, and I took them to the ground with me, exposing her undies. She sprinted away and went straight to the principal's office to say that I had pantsed her on the playground. This being a very weird, small, hyper-religious elementary school, the incident was taken extremely seriously. The principal cautioned me about my obvious perversion, and much ado was made about how this would reflect on my permanent record. Years later, my mom revealed to me that the school was toying with the idea of expulsion. The thought of me as a very small, 6-year-old girl being reprimanded with this level of gravity about this alleged pantsing is so silly now, but it was very scary back then. Posted this before, but seems relevant. I was fighting with my brother, realized the fight was dumb so I just went to my room. My brother decided to punch himself and blame me. My mom is yelling at me and grounding me. I can't believe you did that to your brother, blah blah blah. So I figured if I was about to get in trouble for it I should actually do it. I turned around and actually clocked my brother in the face, to which he responded, "I can't believe she actually did that," and my mom realized he had been lying. I ended up not getting in trouble. So many people with siblings are living vicariously through you right now. When I was 16, I was riding with a friend back to another friend's house and the cops pulled him over. I had nothing on me. He, unbeknownst to me, threw a bag of coke underneath my chair. Cops found it, put us both in jail, took him to county, 17 yo, took me to juvie, 16 yo. He got out before me and hired a lawyer, pinned it on me through family connections. Got the charges reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor cause I was a good kid and it showed. Ruined my life for a good 5 years. Just heard that the kid all grown up broke into his ex-GF's house to steal drugs and is pretty much a burnout loser. I'm applying for law school next spring. That's so messed up. What a terrible person. Glad to hear you're doing a bit better. Ex-boyfriend and I broke up on extremely messy terms. I won't detail everything, but a lot happened leading up to the breakup. I changed colleges and he told his friends and everyone who knew me that he got me pregnant and that's why I left. Considering premarital sex warrants disownment, even honor killings back home. In our culture, this screwed up my relationship with my parents. At this point they were already ready to kick me out for the mere fact of just having a boyfriend. We never even had sex, but I suppose he didn't want to admit I ended things. Of course news spread and came back to my parents. They disowned me after accusing me of being a W, even going as far to assuming I slept with my male friends. Around the time that they officially disowned me, I was waiting for results to confirm whether or not I had breast cancer. My parents didn't believe me until 2 years after the lie. Sounds like a crappy culture. Pedophilia, but only because the person is legitimately crazy and thinks the only reason a male would become a teacher is because they are into kids. I know this is ridiculous, but in 2nd grade another child accused me of calling my teacher a B. No one believed me when I claimed innocence, and I got a spanking and was forced to apologize. I felt so powerless because since all the adults believed I was guilty, in effect I was. I think I'm still a little mad about it. Oh my gosh, I have a similar story. 2nd grade, got accused of writing "you are a B" on another kid's work before he turned it in. He blamed me for it. I sat across the room from him and was a shy, quiet kid and never gave any issues. Still got sent to the office. Stupid Justin from elementary school in Dharma. If you're out there, I'm still mad. Causing severe enough trouble on the bus that it warranted a mid-class trip to see the vice principal. A girl showed up at my study block junior year of high school asking for someone with a name similar to mine, but not my actual name. The teacher sent her away, but she came back a few minutes later insisting this was the right room. The teacher then looked at me and decided close enough and sent me off. Even in hindsight, I'd say I was a good kid. I never did anything that would get me in trouble. That walk was the longest walk I've ever had in my life, and by the time I got to the office I was in tears. He sat me down, patiently got me to stammer my name out and what bus I rode, then told me I was definitely not the right person. My teacher looked downright crushed when I came back to class. The vice principal and I were best friends after that, though. There was a creative writing class at my high school for seniors. You have to write a creative piece to apply to the class. I wrote a piece and got into the class. The class was in my second semester, spring. At the end of the fall semester, my mom takes me out of the class. Why? She accused me of plagiarizing my paper because she thought I didn't write it. She said that it wasn't like papers that I wrote before. I did write it though. She didn't even have proof. I spent a semester abroad in Germany during my junior year of high school. I ended up having to come home early due to falling ill. I came back to school and turns out someone spread a rumor that I was found in bed with multiple men and that's why I had been kicked out of the program. Everyone believed it of course and my senior year was completely destroyed while I've never fully recovered. No way you would have been kicked out of the program because of that. Being in bed with multiple men is not frowned upon. We Germans call that a cozy afternoon. A friend who became a friend with benefits called me a lying butthole the first time we had sex, followed immediately by "you told me you had a vasectomy." She didn't realize that a vasectomy just takes the seeds out of the orange juice. It doesn't eliminate the orange juice. My mom accused me of smoking weed back in high school because she found a matchbook in my pants. I only had the matchbook because it had a funny Mexican man on it, so I decided to pocket it. My real crime was racism stereotyping, I guess. Wife and I were asleep in bed, and when we woke up, she rolled over to get out of bed. She hit her eye on the corner of her nightstand and it left a sick, nasty, bruised, cut black eye for about a week. I had friends asking me if I hit her, and one friend gave me the business saying it's not cool to hit your wife. That friend actually beats his wife. It wasn't the worst, but it definitely hurt. My sister once accused me of stealing her laptop that she had gotten for her birthday. My dad got all pee and said that I probably stole it so I could sell it or some dumb crap. He kept telling me to give it back and I kept saying that I didn't have it. Well, a while later the little bee comes out of her room holding the laptop. It turns out that it was under her bed the whole time. The little bee. Ha ha ha. Purposefully pushing my friend's little sister off the bed and breaking her arm. We were both jumping and she fell, but her older sister and her mom refused to believe that I didn't push her. I was 7 or 8 and the little sister was 3 or 4. It still messes with me that they instantly thought I would do something like that. It's okay, bleach doesn't hurt the skin like acid or anything. Don't beat yourself up over it. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.